An Eastern Journey by W. S Maugham. In this essay, we shall be talking about introduction, the summary and analysis. There will be the reader's review of the text as well. You are watching my YouTube channel Bachelor and Master English, and we are discussing an Eastern journey today. Here is an introduction. This is an Eastern Journey by W. S Maugham, written in English in the country of England. The genre is prose and subgenre is travelogue. It describes the traveler's description of the particular place where he has traveled. The setting is northern Cambodia, that is east, which the writer belongs to the west, and this east represents the Eastern culture that mixes Hindu and Buddhist religion and this language, customs, traditions, and all these things related to Hinduism and Buddhism. And conclusion here, this in the countries of the East, the most impressive, the most awe-inspiring monument of antiquity is neither temple nor great wall, but the man. This is the conclusion made by the author at the end of his description in an Eastern journey. Okay. Here is synopsis. An Eastern journey is the record of the thoughts and feelings by W. S Maugham. These thoughts and feelings experienced by this writer as a traveler when he visited the temple of Angkor Wat, an Eastern Buddhist temple in northern Cambodia. He writes, I have never seen anything in the world more wonderful than the temples of Angkor. First of all, he feels immense difficulty in getting to Angkor Wat. After a 3-day boat journey from Phnom Penh, the great towers of Angkor Wat came to his sight, looming gigantic and black in moonshine. Having approached the range of the grand monument, the writer feels another problem: how to interpret the matchless beauty in simple words. Now his mind is occupied by the thought of literary style and mentions the style of Walter Pater, Ruskin and Thomas Browne. He then mentions his early taste for words, but later he had found that we do not write as we want, but as we can. So he wants to be plain and old as a telegram in style. On his journey to Angkor Wat, he read Travels in Indochina by Hensimot, a French who was the first European to give a detailed description of the range of Angkor Wat. Moth's letter to his wife before his death and his portrait are interpreted subjectively. Later on, he describes what these stupendous monuments looked like before it had been restored. The massive remains today are half hidden by jungle, moss and lichen. For centuries, nature has waged its battle with the handiwork of man. It has covered, disfigured and transformed it, and now all the buildings that a multitude of slaves built with so much labor lie in confused tangle among the trees. Towards the evening, heavy rain fell. As the lightning tore the darkness like a bell, he saw the jungle stretching endlessly before him, and it seemed to him that these great temples and their gods were insignificant before the fierce might of nature. The writer therefore points the truth why men created world and worshipped gods. But in his view, nature is most powerful of all gods. Then he describes the Angkor Wat of bygone days. Some of the temples seem to have been wantonly destroyed. The slaves, after the flight of the ruler, might have left west the city to only a few temples in a teeming forest. Then he describes the structure, sculpture and beauty of the impressive rather than a beautiful monument. This is neither a plan nor pattern but a rhythm and action. The architects were guided by the religious principles. He finds it as lovely as the Elgin marbles. It is full of artistic grace, but he finds both a height of perfection and a mediocrity in their architecture. Today, there are only bats and silence hangs like a presence. He finds the Cambodian dance meaningful, rich in its cultural heritage. It was impregnated with diversity or divinity. It was the self-same spectacle as engraved by its sculptures there. The writer's heart is wrenched on the last day. He finds it more beautiful than before. He then describes the strangeness of Beyond Temple. It is difficult from others because it had not the uniformity of other temples he had seen. The silence there is unearthly, and this fills him with awe and reverence. There are pictures of Cambodian life today. After thousands of years, there is no change. So he says, in these countries of the East, the most impressive, the most awe-inspiring monument of antiquity is neither temple nor citadel, nor the great wall, but man. The peasant with his immemorial uses belongs to an age far more ancient than Angkor Wat, the Great Wall of China, or the pyramids of Egypt. Okay, this is the substance or synopsis of this travelogue in English. Now, let us have short discussion of this text in Nepali. अंग्रेजी साहित्य का महान लेखक र महँगा लेखक को रूपमा पर्ने विलियम समरसेट मौम यो एउटा नियात्राको क्षेत्रमा पनि चर्चित लेखकको रूपमा गनिन्छन्। उनको यो यात्रा विवरण अर्थात् नियात्रा हाम्रो यो इस्टर्न जर्नी अथवा पश्चिमको यात्रा भन्ने शीर्षकको निबन्ध हाम्रो अहिले कक्षा 12 को ऐच्छिक अङ्ग्रेजीमा समावेश गरिएको छ। यो नियात्रा सम्बन्धी लेख हो। विलियम समरसेट मौमको यो लेखमा लेखकले आफूले पूर्वी गोलार्धका देशहरू जहाँ हिन्दू र बौद्ध धर्म मान्नेहरूको बसोबास बाहुल्य छ त्यहाँको यात्रा गर्दाको एउटा कवितात्मक वृत्तान्त अर्थात् उनले टेलिग्रामको जस्तो चाहिँ एउटा भाषामा एकदम सठिक रूपमा गरिएको वृत्तान्तको वर्णन गरेका भन्छन्। लेखकले यस निबन्धमा आफूले यात्रा गर्दाको ठाउँहरू, दृश्य, मानिस, ऐतिहासिक स्थलहरू, भवनहरू अनि एउटा चाहिँ दुर्गहरू, किल्लाहरू अनि त्यसपछि अब धेरै जुन एउटा सुरक्षाका सामरिक दृष्टिकोणले महत्त्वपूर्णहरू, धार्मिक दृष्टिले महत्त्वपूर्ण कुराहरू सबै ठाउँहरूको बडो रोचक पाराले वर्णन गरेका थिए। उनले उत्तरी क्याम्बोडियामा अवस्थित एउटा बुद्ध धर्मको मन्दिर एङ्कोर वाटको वर्णन गर्छन्। आफ्नो कम्बोडिया यात्राको क्रममा कम्बोडियाका नाचहरूबाट अत्यन्त प्रभावित भएका छन् उनी। त्यहाँ उनको एउटा निष्कर्ष छ, यी पूर्वी गोलार्धका देशहरूमा इतिहासका अत्यन्त भय प्रेरणादायक प्राचीन स्मारक, मन्दिर, किल्ला, ठुला पर्खाल कुनै पनि नभएर मानिस नै थिए। अति प्राचीन उपयोगी एङ्कोर वाट, चीनको महान पर्खाल र इजिप्टका पिरामिड किसानका अति प्राचीन उपयोगहरूले हुने गरेका थिए। पूर्वतर्फको यात्राले मौमलाई एक अनुभवी यात्रुको रूपमा गरेका यात्राहरू र त्यसमध्येको उत्तरी कम्बोडियाको बौद्ध मन्दिर जतिको अचम्म स्थान कहीँ पनि नदेखिएको बताएका छन्। बडो कठिन यात्रा गरी नोमपेन पुगेका उनले त्यहाँ आफू बस्दा र घुम्दा गरेका त्यहाँका चाहिँ मन्दिर अनि त्यो मन्दिरलाई छोपिएका त्यहाँका जुकादेखि लिएर सबै झार र त्यसको संरक्षण नभएको, त्यसको बिजोग भएको अवस्था पनि उनले केलाएका छन्। त्यो अब त्यो बिजोग भएका ती पुरातात्विक र ती एउटा महत्त्वका ऐतिहासिक महत्त्वका चिजहरूको अर्थ बोकेका कलाको वर्णन गरेका छन्। उनलाई सबभन्दा अचम्म लागेको अविस्मरणीय जस्तो अनुभूति त्यस बेला भयो जब एक साँझ उनले कम्बोडियाली नर्तक नर्तकीहरूले मन्दिर परिसरमा त्यस्तो नाच प्रदर्शन गरे जसले त्यो नाच राम्ररी बयान गर्ने शब्द वा पदावली नै उपयुक्त रूपमा कमी भएको अनुभूति गरेका छन्। नाच प्रदर्शन गर्ने कलाकारको अनुहार, भाव, हावभावमा भव्यता र उनीहरूको जुन शैली सबैले उनीहरूको सुन्दरताको बखान गरेको देखिन्छ। उनीहरू मूर्तिबाट मानवको रूपमा आई नाच प्रदर्शन गरेको जस्तो लेखकलाई लागेको देखिन्छ। लेखकले आफूलाई 1-2 दिन अघि भ्रमण गरी दर्शन गरेको बेयोनको मन्दिर पनि वर्णन गर्छन्। यो मन्दिरको वास्तुकला अद्भुत भएको उनको ठम्याइ छ। समय र प्रकृतिको बलले हिर्काउँदा जीर्ण बनेको यो मन्दिर धेरै गजुर रहेका 4 मुखी कृति भएको विशाल र स्मारक मानिने भगवान शिवको शिर रहेको छ। त्यहाँ देवी देवता भन्दा पनि भूत प्रेत बस्ने डर लागेर मानिसहरू चर्को स्वरमा गाउँदै हिँड्दा रहेछन्। त्यो कुरा पनि उनले यहाँ चाहिँ स्मरण गरेका छन्। साँझ परेपछि त्यहाँका सुन्दर मुखाकृतिहरू डुब्ने र अनि त्यसपछि त्यहाँ एउटा अर्कै खालको चाहिँ एउटा भाव आउने र त्यहाँ मान्छेहरूले अर्कै खालको अनुभूति गर्ने भएको हुनाले त्यो कुरा पनि यहाँ उनले चाहिँ व्याख्या गर्ने प्रयास गरेका छन्। धेरै शताब्दी बिते र कम्बोडियाली मानिसको जीवनशैली यथावत छ। त्यो जुन त्यहाँका मन्दिरका कलाहरूमा जसरी व्यक्त गरिएका छन्, पहिला ती कलाकारहरू पनि त्यति पूर्ण थिएनन्। अनि कलाकारहरूले पनि काम गर्दै गर्दै जाँदाखेरि उनीहरू अनुभवी भएर उनीहरूले त्यही अनुसारको गरे जस्तो देखिन्छ। अनि यो अब उनले भन्न खोजेको के हो भने त्यो एङ्कर वाटको उनले देखेको जुन एउटा मन्दिर चन्द्रमाको चाहिँ उज्यालोको बिचमा यस्तो राम्रो देखियो, त्यो पनि अवर्णनीय रूपमा देखाएका छन्। अनि उनले यो यहाँ एउटा प्रसङ्ग, यो एङ्कर वाटको चाहिँ उनको एउटा त्यहाँ जानुको महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा के थियो भने उनले बाटोमा एउटा चाहिँ ट्राभल इन इन्डो चाइना, हेनरी मोट भन्ने एउटा फ्रेन्च लेखक जो प्रकृतिवादी लेखक हुन्, उनले त्यो इन्डो चाइना अथवा भारत र चीनको यात्रा भन्ने एउटा चाहिँ शीर्षकको किताब लेखे। त्यो शीर्षकको किताबमा उनले पढे र त्यहाँको एउटा बिजोग अवस्थाको कुरा चाहिँ उनले फेला पारेर अनि त्यहाँ गएर आफू पनि कस्तो रहेछ भनेर हेर्न गए। अनि हेर्ने क्रममा उनले चाहिँ एउटा हेनरी मोटले लेखेको कुरा र यिनले आफूले चाहिँ देखेको कुरा, अब उनले कुन तरिकाले व्याख्या गरे, कुन तरिकाले वर्णन गरे, त्यो कुरा र उनको हेर्ने दृष्टिकोण स्वभाव फरक हुन्छ। उनले जस्ता तस्तै अब हेनरी मोटले जे गरे त्यो गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने थिएन, उनले आफ्नो तरिकाले गरे। अनि एकपटक एक साँझ उनलाई के भयो त भन्दाखेरि भयङ्कर पानी पर्यो साँझ पख, अनि चट्याङ चुटुङ गर्यो। चट्याङ चुटुङ र चाहिँ यति चाहिँ चट्याङ पर्दाखेरि अनि त्यो अब चट्याङले चाहिँ के गर्यो त भन्दाखेरि अन्धकारलाई चाहिँ एउटा घुम्टोले चाहिँ घेरे जस्तो गर्यो। अनि त्यही बेला उनले चाहिँ एउटा यस्तो देखे, त्यो जङ्गल अनन्तसँग फैलिएको र अनि उनको लागि त्यहाँका मन्दिरहरू, त्यहाँका देवताहरू अर्थहीन भएको अनुभूति गरे। तर किन त्यस्तो भयो त भन्दाखेरि प्रकृतिको शक्तिसँग ती देवी देवताका मन्दिरहरू, ती देवताहरू अर्थहीन भएको अनुभूति गरे। अनि उनले भन्छन् मान्छेले भगवान आफूले पूजा गर्नको लागि चाहिँ रचना गरेको हो, तर उनको विचारमा के छ त भन्दाखेरि सबै देवी देवता भन्दा शक्तिशाली को हो? प्रकृति हो। त्यसपछि उनको वर्णन एङ्करवट, विगतका दिनहरूको एङ्करवटको छ। अनि त्यहाँ उसले चाहिँ अब त्यो यति नराम्रोसँग चाहिँ ध्वस्त भएको छ, त्यहाँका ती दासहरूले जसलाई चाहिँ त्यहाँका पहिला आएका शासकहरूले लडाएर उनलाई ध्वस्त पारे। ती शासकहरूले चाहिँ ती शासकहरू त्यहाँबाट हिँडिसकेपछि जसले त्यो मन्दिर जसको हातबाट बनाइन लागेको थियो तिनै हातहरूले त्यो मन्दिरहरू चाहिँ तोडफोड गरिदिए। उनलाई त्यो मन्दिरको महत्त्व, त्यसको पुरातात्विक महत्त्व, त्यसको चाहिँ सांस्कृतिक महत्त्व, त्यस्तो धरोहरको चाहिँ एउटा धार्मिक सांस्कृतिक सबै धरोहर भन्दा पनि ती शासकहरूसँग उनीहरूको रिस भएको हुनाले त्यो रिसको एउटा आवेशमा उनीहरूले त्यहाँ भत्काएको जस्तो अनुभूति हुन्छ। अनि त्यसपछि अब देयर इज नाइदर प्लान नर प्याटर्न। अनि त्यहाँ यस्तो खालको चाहिँ न एउटा कामको न ढाँचा छ न एउटा योजना नै छ। अनि ती कलाकारहरू जुन एउटा चाहिँ शिल्पीहरू छन्, आर्किटेक्ट्सहरू, तिनीहरू चाहिँ धार्मिक आधारमा प्रभावित भएको देखिन्छ। अनि उनले त्यसपछि एउटा एल्जिन मार्बल जस्तो आकर्षक देखिन्छन्। अनि उनले चाहिँ आफ्नो सुन्दरतामा एउटा त्यति चाहिँ भव्य के एउटा संरचनालाई अलिक कमसल हातहरूले बनाएको एउटा कृति अथवा कमसल हातहरूले बनाएको कमसल शिल्पीहरूले बनाएको भएको हुँदाखेरि त्यसको महत्त्व अथवा गरिमा नै घटेको हो कि। आजभोलि त त्यहाँ त्यो मन्दिरमा त त्यहाँ चाहिँ एउटा चमेराहरू अनि सुनसान एउटा चमेराहरू छन्। अनि त्यहाँ वरिपरि सुनसान छ, त्यहाँ केही पनि छैन। अनि त्यहाँ चाहिँ पछि उनले चाहिँ त्यो साँझ मैले अगाडि पनि बताइसकेँ, त्यहाँ कम्बोडियाली मान्छेहरूको एउटा नाच त्यो मन्दिर परिसरमा चाहिँ प्रदर्शन भयो। त्यो नाच त एउटा दैवी शक्ति चाहिँ तिनीहरूको अन्तर अथवा पेटमा चाहिँ अथवा तिनीहरूको अन्तर्मनमा दैवी शक्ति पसेको र त्यो दैवी शक्तिले नै तिनीहरूलाई चाहिँ त्यस्तो खालको भव्य नाच प्रदर्शन गर्ने क्षमता प्रदान गरेको जस्तो उनले महसुस गरे। त्यसपछि उनले त्यहाँको बेयन टेम्पलको एउटा अचम्म अथवा अद्भुत कला र अचम्मको पाराको पनि व्याख्या गरेका छन्। उनले भन्छन् अरू मन्दिरहरूभन्दा यो मन्दिर फरक छ, किन भन्दाखेरि यो अरू मन्दिरहरूको भन्दा यसमा काम गरेको पारामा एकरूपता छ। अनि त्यसपछि त्यहाँको चाहिँ सुनसान, त्यो प्राकृतिक रूपमा त्यो सुनसानलाई चाहिँ अनि त्यहाँबाट चाहिँ त्यो सुनसान र अनि त्यसपछि अलिकति डर अनि अलिकति एउटा त्यो प्रतिको माया आस्था देखिन्छ होइन। अनि उनले भन्छन् कम्बोडियाको अब ती चित्रहरूले कम्बोडियाका मान्छेहरूको आजसम्मको जीवनको शैली बदलिएको छ, अब बदलेका छन्, देखाएका छन्। त्यो आजसम्मको जीवनशैली त्यो यथावत छ है। अनि त्यही भएर उनले के भन्छन् भन्दाखेरि यो पूर्वी देशहरूमा सबभन्दा महत्त्वपूर्ण कुराहरू, पूर्वी देशहरू भनेको उनको यहाँ यस अर्थमा चाहिँ कम्बोडियाको अर्थ आउँछ। सबभन्दा महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा के हो त, त्यहाँको पुरातात्विक मन्दिर, ती गजुर, त्यसपछि चाहिँ त्यो एउटा किल्लाहरू अनि र ठुल्ठुला पर्खालहरू अथवा ती ठुल्ठुला चाहिँ पिरामिडहरू नभएर मान्छे नै महत्त्वपूर्ण हो। त्यही भएर मान्छेले जुन खालको एउटा चाहिँ सबै विविधता देखाउन सक्छ, मान्छेमा त्यो खालको कला प्रदर्शित हुनसक्छ, मान्छे त्यो खालको अनुभूति व्यक्त गरेको हुन्छ, मान्छेले त्यो खालको व्यवहार व्यक्त गरेको हुन्छ। मान्छे जतिको महत्त्वपूर्ण केही छैन। मान्छेले नै मन्दिर बनायो, मान्छेले नै मन्दिर भत्कायो, मान्छेले नै त्यसको संरक्षण गर्छ, मान्छेले नै त्यो प्रकृति र देवताहरूलाई चाहिँ त्यो खालको रूप दिन सक्छ। भनेपछि मान्छे नभइकन अरू केही पनि हुँदैन, अरू त मान्छेले बनाएका चिज हुन्। त्यसो भएर उनको अर्थमा मान्छे नै महत्त्वपूर्ण हो। ओके, त्यसकारण उनले के भनेका छन् भने कम्बोडियाका मान्छे अद्भुत भएको छ। अद्भुत मान्छे, कम्बोडियाका मान्छे अद्भुत हुन्। तिनीहरूको कला, तिनीहरूको संस्कृति, तिनीहरूको धर्म, तिनीहरूको चाहिँ एउटा सबै कुराको प्रदर्शन गर्दाखेरि तिनीहरू अद्भुत छन् भनेपछि मान्छेको अध्ययनलाई बढी फोकस गर्छ। एक हिसाबले यहाँ चाहिँ प्रकृतिवादी भन्दा पनि यिनी चाहिँ एउटा के भन्छ अब मानवशास्त्रीको रूपमा चाहिँ यहाँ प्रस्तुत भएको देखिन्छ यति पाठमा। ओके, लेट्स गो विथ द एनालिसिस अफ दिस text. William Somerset Maugham is a celebrated prose writer who is recognized for his purity of style during World War I. Maugham worked for the British Secret Service. He traveled all over the world and made many visits to America. His work show his passionate interest in the art of writing prose. He is master of plain way of writing English. It is reflected in his travelogue and Eastern journey under discussion. His art and mastery of excellent prose writing can be easily noticed in an Eastern journey. This essay is written in a most beautiful style. There is no want to finish. The difference between prose and poetry is obliterated. There is no demarcation line here. It flows with rhythmic ease and flow of poetic expression. Now here is Henry Maugh's book. The detailed description of the ruins of Angkor Wat was first made by French naturalist Henry Maught in Henry Maugh's book Travels in Indochina as a worth reading book. The essay says that the Henry Maugh's aforementioned work is a pleasant, painstaking and straightforward account of what of that place. But Maugham does not praise this work because it was a record of that period when the traveler believed that people who did not eat, dress, talk and think as he did were very odd and not human. Besides, Maugham described many things that would not excite the astonishment of the more sophisticated and modest traveler of this time. He did not include the accurate details of that place in his writing. There were many unnecessary additions and corrections in Maugham's copy of this book. Some pilgrims had drawn with their pencils. It led to confusion. The corrections made with the determined hand shows that Maugh's description was erroneous. The corrections there were not so, far from it, quite wrong, palpable error, etc. Maugh had no time to correct it before his death. Therefore, writer Somerset Maugham does not praise his work, and he is right in this stand. And Angkor Wat and its grandeur. Bayon Temple is different from other temples that Maugham had seen at Angkor Wat. It lacked the uniformity to be found in other temples. It consists of a multitude of towers, one above others symmetrically arranged, and each tower is a four-faced gigantic head of Siva. Each is surmounted by a decorated crown. The most important things about Bayon Temple are bar which present in the picture of cooking food, catching fish, buying and selling, and in short the various activities of simple Cambodian people. Bayon Temple and its reliefs gave the author the impression of the Eastern people. If one were to wake up today after 1,000 years sleep, you would find no changes in his daily life. Angkor was a great city, thriving, populous, and now there remains nothing but a few ruined temples of teeming forest covering around 10 miles. The place has drawn keen attention of the writer describes the remains of Khmer civilization in Cambodia. Thus, I have never seen in the world anything more wonderful than the temples of Angkor. It is an impressive rather than a beautiful building, sunrise and sunset. Its loneliness touches the heart. The great towers of Angkor seem strangely insubstantial at dawn. The architects had not shown the great skill while making this. The pattern had neither wanton fancy nor vivid imagination. They were deliberate in their work. The effect of the grandeur of this temple they achieved was through regularly and vastness. The themes are few but repeated. The craftsmen seem to growing mature when we go from temple to temple. Their simple style, artistry, and craftsmanship slowly matured. The world famous galleries, the turrets, the capitals, pilasters, pediments, and doorways, every place is world famous and wonderful. There is neither plan nor design nor rhythm in the great art, but only action which the artist sought there. Among the vibrant life of jungle, some works are as lovely as the Elgin marbles. One is caught by the rapture and beauty, but much is poor and tedious. The sculptures were copying one another. Perhaps the rulers played the country, and those slaves whose labor had erected this great work might have destroyed the monument. Today the god sleeps in the dark, somber corners among the weed-choked, mossy, great ruinous masonry. And here is nature, the most powerful of all gods. How? That's conclusion of William Somerset Maugham in this essay. During his visit to Angkor Wat, writer Somerset Maugham had been glancing at the peculiar ruins, the silence like death itself, the broken gods lost among lichen and moss, and the weed-choked ruinous masonry of the past. The dust was encroaching. At the very moment great dark clouds massed in northwest, and it had seemed to him that never again could the temple in the jungle be seen by him more mysterious. After a while he felt something strange in the air, and looking up saw the dark clouds were on a sudden changing down upon the forest. He was suddenly overtaken by a violent storm, thunder roll upon roll reverberating through the sky. The lightning and thunder confused and defended him. The heavy rain seemed to fall with some purpose, and it was not any blind, unconscious force. Filled with wonder, he stood in doorway. As the lightning tore the darkness like a bell, he saw the jungle stretching endlessly before him. At this, he realized that the great temples and gods were insignificant before the fierce might of nature. Her power was obvious there. She was speaking with a strong, insistent voice. It terrified the writer. So he knew how man has been afraid of nature, and how he had devised his gods and built great temples to placate the gods. Gods are nothing but a screen between man himself and the force of nature that terrified the crossed and crossed him. Thus, for him, nature is the most powerful of all gods. And what's the conclusion of this description here? In a nutshell, William Somerset Maugham in this travelogue draws his experience of visiting eastern countries, especially Cambodia. It is an account of his travelogue. The author describes the places seen, people, historical places, buildings, and so on that he saw and visited in this journey to Cambodia. He describes the Angkor Wat, an Eastern Buddhist temple complex situated in northern Cambodia. He is impressed by the Cambodian dances. He concludes that in these countries of the East, the most impressive is neither temple nor citadel nor great wall, but man. The peasant with his immemorial uses belongs to an age far more ancient than Angkor Wat, the Great Wall of China, or the pyramids of Egypt. Okay, with this I have come to the end of my discussion. I am sure you got the points. If you have any queries, please put your ideas in my comment box. Till then, have a nice time.